This is the Selected Podcast, your backstage pass and exclusive access to some of the biggest names in the tech industry. Brought to you by Sesamers, the definitive name in tech event media.
Hi there, this is Ben from Sesamers, recording live at Slush 2024 in Helsinki. We're diving into conversations with leaders who are driving transformative innovation and tackling the most pressing challenges of our time. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Marta Sjögren, co-founder and co-CEO of Paebbl, the restored carbon company turning CO2 into sustainable building materials. Hi, Marta. How are you doing?
Hi, Ben. It's great to be here. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. Let's start with your journey. We know each other for quite some time. You were working as an investor back then, and now you're co-founding Paebbl. Mm-hmm. Why did you move from investment into Paebbl? But yeah, let's start with your journey.
So I was an investor for about 13 years across 2 different funds, most recently Northzone for about 9 years, and before that DN Capital. And I realized during my journey that I had learned quite a bit about investing, about companies scaling, but always from the side. And then I realized upon a certain milestone, so to speak, that I was not really utilizing my toolkit towards something that I could look at my kids in the eyes and say, I did my part to make the planet a little bit better for you guys. I'm a mother of 2 boys, so this is pretty important to me. And so I was going to co-found a climate tech fund until I actually realized that some of the most interesting climate technologies there are just not many commercial people working with them. It's a lot of engineers and researchers, and they're fantastic, but you need the commercial acumen to actually scale a business. And so I thought, well, what if I can use my toolkit and help and scale a team and build a climate tech that can scale in the coming decade. And then one thing led to another. I had researched the market. I'd studied loads of different technologies, and I developed basically 3 filters. The 3 filters that I developed is that it can never be seen as greenwashing. That's number one. So the scientific community will never go behind, will go behind it as saying this is truly a climate technology. Then number 2 is that it needed to be scalable, truly globally scalable. I was happy to take engineering risk because that's the world that I come from, but it needed to be ultimately very scalable in the coming decades. And that's another kind of element to it. And then finally, beyond technologically scalable, it needed to be commercially viable even in a bear market. Everything is great and hunky-dory in a bull market. And I knew that, hey, we're, kind of likely approaching tough times. So we founded the company 3 years ago, which was like the height of the boom times. Anything could raise capital then, but I thought we need to optimize because the bubble will burst at some point. We got to do something that makes sense. So those were the 3 different filters for me. And I happened to fall in love with a technology that takes CO2, the gas, and turns it into CO3, which is a carbonate, a rock. So at Paebbl, we turn CO2 into a rock, and then you see on this camera right here, we have 2 little houses, which are basically the vision of the application of this restored carbon, which is turning the built environment into a huge carbon sink, which I think is viable in the coming decade. So that's the journey.
Just a quick question, when you were an investor, did you touch this type of subject or not really?
Absolutely not.
Right.
So the first thing
I
said...
That's what I remember.
Yeah. I was a SaaS.
Yeah.
Actually, funny story. I was a SaaS and primarily software as a service investor. I did a bit of B2C as well, a bit of gaming.
Yeah, gaming.
And similar, and then when I decided to found this company and I started talking to my network and they're like, what the hell are you doing? You know nothing about materials. I'm like, but it is SaaS. You know why it is? Because it's sequestration as a service.
Okay, good one.
There you go. It is SaaS. It is SaaS.
Nice. Without going too technical, but I told you that we are lucky to have a very diverse audience that includes engineers working in the composite materials industry, for example. Tell us about the process. How does it work, for people who don't know anything?
Sure. So what we do is that we basically copy a natural process, the process of mineralization, that has happened since the beginning of times. It's always going to continue happening. And what happens in the natural process is that CO2, the gas, will eventually meet rain or water, and will kind of sink onto silicate minerals, and then over a very long amount of time, like thousands of years, will turn into a carbonate. So the gas will turn into a rock. And that's how mountains are built, effectively. Oh, it's some parts of mountains, right? What we do is that we just chemically accelerate that process by about 10 million times. And how do we do that? So we will take captured CO2. We don't care where the CO2 comes from, but ethically we have chosen to work with non-fossil CO2. So that means biogenic sources of industrial CO2, and it means direct air capture and direct ocean capture, right? So we've tested working with all three of those. It works. So that's where the CO2 comes from. Then we take some minerals, the same minerals that would be absorbing the CO2 as mountains. We just crush them quite a lot and then open up a bunch of surface area. And then we get those to react with water. So it's a slurry-based process under temperature that is oven-grade temperature, so to speak, not above 200 degrees Celsius, but I'm going to tell you exactly the conditions. Yeah. And then under pressure as well. So pressures are below 100 bars, for example. And we add certain chemical accelerants, which are non-toxic, they're organic and abundantly available. And why do we do that? Because we're going to need to scale the solution in the global south as well. You need to optimize the economics so that it works also in the global south. And what comes out of the process, per every 1 ton of CO2 that we deal with, and 2 tons of feedstock that we basically use for the reaction, roughly 3 tons of end product comes out. So you can trace literally per gram, you can trace the CO2 in what comes out as carbonates. And then we sell that to the built environment. We also sell the carbon credits to companies that want to buy carbon credits.
Like a SaaS.
Like a SaaS.
How big is the team?
We're 45, 22 nationalities, age spread between 25 and 64. Gender, very gender diverse, ethnically diverse. Also, we're extremely diverse. But most importantly, skills diverse. So you mentioned, you work in the composite, or you've interviewed people in the composites industry. We have hired people from oil and gas. We provide green transition job opportunities to oil and gas, to mining, to chemicals, to advanced materials, automotive, just to name a few, and then more of that.
And how many more will you be hiring with the recent funding round?
We're probably roughly going to double the team in the coming year and a half. But very importantly to our roadmap is that we're extremely privileged to be building this company today and not 5 years ago. You can automate a lot more, and what you can't automate, you can augment technologically. So I think our hiring roadmap compared to had we built the company, even 3 years ago, or let alone 5 years ago, is shrunk by quite a lot.
Why? Can you explain a bit more?
Absolutely. With the advent of generative AI, or just the plethora of technological tools that are out there, you need fewer people to do the same amount of work, and also the iteration cycles on product development, on technology development, research, R&D, are just way shorter this way. So not only do we decrease our OpEx in terms of payroll, but also we're not getting rid of our people, by the way. It's just that we don't need to increase it so much. We also gain on speed, because you don't need to onboard people. You just get your stuff done through your agents, basically.
You already are using agents.
Yeah.
So 25 million Series A, like a month ago?
Well, it was actually closed in the summer. We just chose to announce it, about a month ago.
What you were describing, with this, the fact that you can hire less to get the same output, it sounds like the way, all business people will think this way, but it's also maybe something that an investor who is putting money in your business is also expecting. Is it the case? Like, in general, are investors now, this is a question for the broader, founder community listening to this, are investors pushing you to be more efficient when it comes to how many people you need because they expect you to be using agents?
So we have an amazing board. They're very supportive of just about anything, and yes, they're pushing us to kind of think ahead. But it's more about it's not so much about how to decrease costs. It's about staying competitive. And we know that companies that will start, say, 2 years from now, will have even more natively an AI first type of a business, right? So for us, it's about investing into what we know will be a hygiene factor. Right now, it's in the industry that we're in, we're extremely advanced, let's put it that way. But it's going to become a hygiene factor very, very quickly. So that's really the level at which our investors are kind of supporting our roadmap. And we're working proactively in just, also not buying snake oil effectively, not, like AI for like whatever, I don't know, cable assembling. There are enough of us in the team that can actually analyze and figure out what is actually going to work, what is going to add value, and what is just a waste of time.
Who is investing in this round? Like what type of funds?
Sure. So, well, firstly, our seed round was already very climate tech focused. It was 2050. Marie Eklund led the round. And Paebbl Dot joined that round as well. And then Grantham Foundation. And then a bunch of friends from, the tech ecosystem, founders from, Supercell, Unity, and so on and so forth. And that was about 2 and a bit years ago. And then the Series A was led by a German fund called Capnamic that has industry ties. It's a financial investor, so very pure play VC. And then we were joined by, we proactively decided to invest in, to build an aligned value chain. Again, this is through the support of 2050 that helped us map this out. It was amazing. So we were able to bring in 3 strategics that are helping us actually with the go-to-market in ways that I think have not been done to date. So who's that? So the value chain that we will be selling into is obviously building materials. Those building materials would then be sold to construction companies. And those construction companies would be building projects for asset owners. And we have actually a representative from each step of that. And we have the best companies in the world, earliest adopters in the world. We have Holcim.
Yeah, I've seen
Holcim
that.
Lafarge, or I think they're just called Holcim these days. On the materials side. Now, in the middle, we have what I can announce for now is one family office of Goldbeck. They're called Aurum Impact. It's one of Germany's largest construction companies. And then we have Amazon and their Climate Pledge Fund at the far end. And so what Amazon liked about this is that they can use the Climate Pledge, kind of like the CO2 targets that they have, not to offset through buying carbon credits, but actually to inset. So they're using those budgets to actually subsidize the transition for the middle of the chain that is, or middle and the far end of their own value chain. That's some of the investors that we have on board. And then all of our existing investors, institutional ones, participate as well. Can
you, I don't know how much in detail you can explain, but when you were saying that 2050 helped map this, what does it mean? Like, it's, as a former investor, I'm pretty sure you have this sort of experience from founders like, okay, I just need your money, or I need more than money, that type of conversation. In this case, it sounds like there's additional expertise that was critical. Yeah. I mean, you said that with a big smile for those who don't look at this video. Yeah. Why is it that, again, what is it that they do? Like, they send you a PDF saying, oh, you should do this? So 2050, and if you haven't interviewed Marie or somebody else on the team, yet. You should absolutely do so. What they helped us do is understand that the product and the company that we're creating right now, if we're successful, it will have huge impacts, domino effect, effectively, in the year 2050, which is what they're kind of focused on. What is the world going to look like in 2050? And they helped us say, okay, if you're successful in what you're doing, this is going to be the effect, right? So we created this alignment method to say, let's scale back and say... start from the end.
We start from the end. In 2050, Paebbl would like to be restoring the planetary carbon balance by a gigaton of CO2, okay? And then that's 2050. That's 25 and a bit years from now. What does that mean 10 years from now? Then scaling back to what does that mean 5 years, 2 years, and then even next year. So you have this roadmap that says, if we focus on this thing next year, you're never going to hit the target like exactly, but you have a directional sense of like we're going more or less north, northwest, similar. And then we're able to say, okay, so what do we actually need to de-risk with the Series A as a result? And we knew that market de-risking was one of the huge issues because of the regulatory pressures in in the built environment. There's a lot of lobbying being done on kind of like how quickly can new materials come in and so on and so forth. At the same time, we have the ETS, the European Trading System of CO2 credits, that's making it more and more expensive to sell the old school version of very CO2 emitting materials. So there's a lot of market pressure on the one side coming in, but really very few solutions. And so we sat down with 2050 and mapped out the value chain that will be affected by us coming in, not just us, but companies like ours. And then we were able to say, well, what if we brought these guys to our cap table? What if we created vested interests such that if we succeed, they also succeed as shareholders and hopefully also as business units? And we started talking to like a handful of folks in this space, and were able to actually pinpoint some of the dream partners we had, and then we were very, very fortunate to get a bunch of them involved already.
Is it your first time as a CEO?
Absolutely. It's my first time as a founder overall. It's very humbling.
But you're not alone as a CEO?
No, we're co-CEOs.
Oh, how does it work?
Great. We love it. So my co-CEO was a former /CEO. His name is Andreas Sari. And we decided when we started the company that the problem that we were solving was so big, and neither of us had done it before in that sense. I mean, he had been a CEO. I had absolutely not. But this type of problem that we were solving was multidimensional. What I had observed in my former career through, a statistically relevant sample size is that co-leadership is actually very, very prevalent among successful startups, scale-ups.
Okay.
If you look at them, if you look at like Spotify, it was originally co-run by Martin Lorentzen and Daniel Ek. If you look at Avito, another company I'm intimately familiar with, again, co-run by two founders. If you look at let me see, I believe Airbnb is co-run. There's like a whole bunch of companies that are co-run by maybe a chairperson and a CEO, or co-CEOs or something like that. And we decided that this was what we wanted to do. But as with many things at Paebbl, we say always, let's pilot something, let's test it.
Okay.
No ego involved. If it doesn't work, we change. So we said we're going to pilot co-CEO-ship for the first 2 years and actually take a check-in in the middle of it at the end of the first year and say, how are we feeling? We did that. We really enjoyed it. And then we continued another year. And now we've just recommitted for another 2 years. So we're really happy. We each get to take holidays, actual holidays. For the first time ever, Ben, in my 15+ year career, I left my computer at home for a week this year. I never would have been able to do that as sole CEO. Even if I had, the most epic leadership team, you just wouldn't be able to. And with Andreas, it's the same thing. So we love it.
How do you split responsibilities?
Andreas makes sure that we don't run out of time, and I make sure we don't run out of money. Which means on his side, it means that he's always, speeding up roadmaps, speeding up execution, trying to work with our teams to hack our timeline for planetary reasons. But of course, it helps us as a company as well. And on my side right now, I'm kind of like our acting CFO and acting head of sales and like similar. So I both do investor relations. I currently manage all of our finance. Hopefully soon we're able to announce an amazing VP Finance hire so I can hand over some of that. And then I'm in charge of our commercial strategy and the negotiation on the commercial front.
Is it because of this responsibility that you go to events like Polytech in Paris?
Yes. So, decarbonizing hard-to-abate industries such as concrete or the built environment is going to take a movement. And I think it's very frequent that when I read the media, I get a sense that those working in the hard-to-abate sectors are the bad guys. And what we're realizing is that actually it's going to take a village. It's going to take a movement. And we're spreading that word where it's a call to action as well. If you want to partner in decarbonizing concrete, we have a pretty good set of partners already. And you can join, one of those, groups of partners and help decarbonize together and share metadata. It's very important. you're going in with a new product into a very mature industry, it's very important that we are able to share learnings in a desensitized way, of course, respecting the privacy, IP, all that stuff. But importantly, sharing the de-risking journey together. That's why I'm at Polytech. That's why I'm spending time in all sorts of places I never would have thought I would spend time in. Like yesterday, I was in, where was I? I was in Madrid yesterday. And I was at the Wholesome Global Leaders Summit. They have it annually, and presenting this solution. And you should see the look in these people's eyes. Everyone. I like to think that everyone does the best they can with the information that they have available. Yeah. And you should see the eyes of some of the folks. It was 300 people in the audience when I kind of pitched that. Hey, what if the most ambitious flagship type of construction projects could be the world's biggest carbon stores? What if NEOM, which has all sorts of connotations of
what is NEOM for those who don't know?
So NEOM is this very very ambitious, very very long. I think it's 100 kilometers, 100 plus kilometers long line out in the desert in Saudi Arabia. That is gonna be a whole brand new city. It's being built from ground up. And to make this vision come true, you'd need about 5 million tons of cement every year for the next 5 years, which is it's an enormous amount of cement to create, about 30 million tons of concrete per year for this urban jungle. And so what if you could turn that vision into the world's largest carbon sink, instead of per every ton of cement emitting 600 to 800 kilograms of CO2? What if you could store CO2 instead? That's the vision.
Good one. We're going to get soon to the end of this. I wanted to know what you're looking for here at an event like Slush. You've been here as an investor, now as a founder. Again, next week you will be at a industry trade show, very different vibe. And also any advice for those who are listening to us when it comes to coming to an event like this?
An event like Slush?
Both. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm very kind of goal-driven, always have been. When I was an investor, I certainly was goal-driven. Here I am also. So I've mapped out the attendees that I want to meet for whatever reason. Sometimes it's a catch-up. Other times it's a first meeting. The huge slush sign up front is a carbon storing slush sign. You have these little houses here. So we're sort of demoing, if that makes sense, the fact that we are really moving quite fast. Last year we were very quiet. The year before that we were in stealth mode, so we couldn't even talk about anything. And what I'm looking for is just partners that are willing to be part of the decarbonization journey. That's what I'm doing here and what I'll be doing at Polytech as well.
And you find those type of players in an event like Slush?
Absolutely. Yeah. You find the ones that are actually, I haven't been to Polytech yet, but I'll see next week. But you find here at Slush, what you find is really the early movers. You find folks whose job is to take risks. I'm very curious about Polytech and what the vibe will be there, but maybe we can catch up another time and we can talk about that.
Thank you so much. Where can we learn more about Paebbl and follow your journey, or maybe apply for a job there? Paebbl.com, Paebbl.com. It's misspelled, Paebbl the little rock. It's misspelled because we get very good organic searches. So you can just Google Paebbl Marta and you're going to get to our website, I'm pretty sure, very easily. And we have a career site. We're hiring. We would love for more amazing, experienced, all sorts of engineers, researchers, product developers, commercial folks, policy folks to join us. So that's careers.paebbl.com. And please reach out. Thank you so much for your time, Marta.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're live from Slush 2024 in Helsinki. Big thank you again to the Slush team, the volunteers, Hila and Aino, for making these conversations possible. And don't forget to subscribe to the Selected podcast for more insights into sustainability, innovation, and the future of tech. See you soon on Sesame.